Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Strip Search, the comic strip podcast. We are here in July of 2022. I am Pete Chianca, and I am here, as always, with Dave London. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Pete.
How was your July so far?
So far, so good. Just sort of been stuck at home for 2.5 years, and it's just sort of now it's another summer.
It's like right. It's like all the other months. Dave and I are both still working remotely in our day jobs. For those of you who've been wondering, we are my place is supposedly reopening in September, but we will see. I guess yours too, right?
Supposedly, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, to be determined, right?
Well, I can't wait to get back on the T. To be waiting on the platforms.
Yeah.
And
With 1 million people where you can catch COVID. Right.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. Getting shoved onto shuttle buses. It's going to be great. But actually, we are taping this in early July. We just got some sad news. Sad news about a Hollywood legend.
Sonny Corleone was killed over the weekend.
He wasn't killed, Dave. He's an actor, James Caan, and he died of natural causes.
No, the toll booth. He got shot up. It was a hit. I don't understand.
All right, do the impression.
I can't do the impression, but what?
No, him. You got to look at what they did to my boy.
I don't do a Corleone impression. That's you.
No, but I don't either. Everybody does it, but nobody does it. Nobody.
Okay.
So condolences to those who are fans. He played, of course, in addition to Sonny Corleone, did
the dad in Elf, the best.
I was going to say that, right? The toughest children's book publisher ever in the history of children's book publishing, real or imagined. He was like I used to work in publishing. I never met anyone as scary as James Caan as the children's book publisher at Elf. I do say, we were having a discussion about this at work today. He raised the level of the entire enterprise. Not that Elf wasn't a good movie already, but he just brought it up that one notch to a place he didn't have to go for a Will Ferrell kids Elf movie.
No, and we should point out that the day we're recording this, we just found out he passed. So that's the reason for this timely.
That's right.
Homage to James Caan.
You might be listening to this a few days later, but we just heard of this and wanted to give him his due. What else is going on in the world of comic strips? I feel like, back in the day, it seemed like every other day there was a new comic strip making a debut in national syndication. These days, it's extremely rare. Could be the fact that newspapers are slowly, actually very quickly, going the way of the dodo. A lot of them have sadly closed, and newspapers, as you know, have traditionally been the home of comic strips since they sort of first reared their heads a century or so ago. But there is a new one. It just got national syndication, getting a lot of attention. It's called Crabgrass by Tahid Bandia. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And it's a very cool strip. Andrews McNeil Syndicate has syndicated it. It's set in the early 80s. So no cell phones or internet or any of that stuff, or parental supervision, apparently. I think that's the idea. The two neighbors who become fast friends and get into all sorts of adventures and some terrific artwork. And it's just nice to see a new strip getting some play.
It's fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing it. The artwork is excellent. I've been reading about the promotional materials, so very excited. In the 1980s, which of course everything comes back to the 80s, right? I mean, TV shows take place in the 80s. That's when some of the best cartoon strips, obviously some of sort of our personal favorites, my personal favorites, Bloom County, Calvin and Hobbes, and so on.
Arguably the golden age of comic strips. Some might say, it ebbed and flowed, and you had the classic like full page strips of the turn of the century, of course, way back when, pre-TV.
The other century, not the one that we just had.
Right, exactly. Obviously, right up through World War II, and then the Peanuts era of the 50s and 60s. But I think the 80s were just, between Doonesbury, 70s, 80s, and then, like you said, into, Bloom County, Calvin and Hobbes, The Far Side, the classic panel. And then, you know, I think, like we said, as newspapers started to wither, unfortunately, so did the comic strip output. Also, in the 80s, Stranger Things. I assume you've finished the most recent season?
I did. Stayed up very late to watch the final 2 episodes.
I've come up with an idea. You know how the Kate Bush song "Running Up That Hill" was heavily featured, and it was I guess what you classify as a minor hit, maybe they did an alternative radio hit. Now she bought back the rights to all of her music a few years ago, so she has made every penny that that song has earned as a result of its newfound popularity. And that show, she's made over $2 million. So I'm thinking we need to get a mention
in Stranger Things. I thought you were going to say you're going to call the Beatles and tell them this is how they can get the rights to all their music back.
No, I don't care about them. It's us. I'm all about us. Our comic strip pet peeves, of course, was not around in the 80s, but
we were.
And we launched our first strip, I think would technically be in the late 80s, which, you know, if it goes according to the way the series has gone, it'll be approaching the late 80s probably in the next season.
A couple more seasons, that's right.
So, but perhaps the Stranger Things kids are fans of Swidey, our very first comic strip that we tried unsuccessfully to sell in the 80s.
And successfully were threatened to be sued by our friend Neil Swidey, who threatened us that if we use his name in a strip, he would sue us. So
yeah, he's probably still against it, which could be something of an obstacle. But we'll get the Duffer Brothers on the line. We'll work all that out. They have high-priced lawyers.
Right.
So look for that in season 5 of Stranger Things. And in the meantime, what else do we have going on? We have a great guest coming up today, Mr. Crowden Satz, who goes by Crow to his friends, which we hopefully count ourselves among. We'll be talking to him soon. But anything? I did want to ask about your weekend plans, Dave. Are you planning to see the new Marvel?
Well, I in fact ordered ahead and got tickets to Thor. So tomorrow night. So today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. It opens Friday night.
I read actually, it's a Showcase Cinema, I think in Dedham. This may sound familiar to you. Is doing today as we film this. It started at 8 a.m. this morning. A 4-movie marathon of every Thor movie in the theater that will end with the new Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder. I personally cannot imagine sitting through all 4 Thor movies.
Yeah, no.
The second one in particular, I think that's when I go out and get something to eat. I love the third one. But it reminded me of the time you and I, many years ago, I think in this same exact theater in Dedham,
I think it might have been,
to see the original Star Wars trilogy when they presented all 3.
Yep.
This was prequels. It was still the only Star Wars content out there.
This was before you could reserve your seats in advance, so you had to get there early to get the good seat. Yeah,
that's right. And as I recall, I fell asleep during Return of the Jedi. I just couldn't.
9 hours in a row of Star Wars. I do remember that.
Yeah, I tried, but
I won't ruin the ending for you.
Oh, good. Thank you. I've been meaning since then to go back and figure out what happened with that Darth Vader guy. Okay, well, we are ready now, I think, to bring on our guest. He should be here momentarily, so we're going to take a very quick break. And in 30 seconds or so, your time, we'll be back with Crowden Satz here on Strip Search, the Comic Strip Podcast. Be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Strip Search, the Comic Strip Podcast. I'm Pete Chianca here with Dave London, and now is the time when we introduce our guest for this month, and we are so excited to have Crowden Satz here with us. His friends call him Crow. I'm hoping we could include ourselves among them and refer to you as Crow.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us. And Crowden Satz is a very well-established cartoonist. He does a very, very funny panel that we will talk about and get his thoughts on how, we will try to avoid asking you the question every cartoonist hates. Where do your ideas come from?
I have an answer for that.
All right, good. Then we are going to get to that. But first I wanted to ask is, Dave, who knows you from the world of cartooning, mentioned to me that you're a somewhat recent transplant to New England, which is where we are. And I just was wondering, and you came from California, is that right?
With my banjo on my knee, yes.
So how's that transition been? Are the cartoon inspirations as plentiful in New England as they were on the West Coast?
Yeah. I mean, for one thing, we have this winter season, which I'm not familiar with, except for my youth. I grew up on the East Coast, so I have vague memories of the winter. But
so you know that snow exists, right? The
now I
concept.
totally do. I've got an awesome snowblower. I'll let you use it if
Okay.
you come up here. That was my first thing with my wife. I talked to some neighbors and they said, boy, they came up and they bought clothes for the winter. And then they bought more clothes because those weren't sufficient. Then they bought more clothes. And on the third round, they got the right clothes. So I said, I'm going to jump that. So I hit it major. We're ready for Alaska weather. So the huge parkas and a big snow blower and all the stuff. So I was ready for it. I thought it wasn't an impressive winter. I was like, this is it? This is all you got? Come on.
You got here just in time for global warming, so it may not be
Right.
as wintry as it used to be. We'll see. I hope we get back to it.
You missed the ice dams about 5 or 6 years ago. We had the winter of piling snow overnight, 18 inches for a couple nights in a row. I don't know, Pete, if you got hammered with it. I got all these ice dams in my house.
Horrible.
I heard about that. I also heard about things that we had Squirrel Mageddon 2 years ago, and a year before that, I think it was Chipmunkageddon. So there's interesting things out here I didn't expect.
Yeah, the gypsy moths. I'm not sure when they're due back.
Oh God, I hope not. But anyway, you said recent. In 5 days, it'll be a year since the closing. In fact, the background here is my house. Well,
nice.
My house.
So you have a little tree house.
Yeah, it's kind of high up. You can't see it. Exactly.
All right. So tell us about your cartooning work. Describe your gag cartooning.
Do you want me to go into the whole thing? Because I got it.
I mean, just sort of how I'm always curious, like everybody classifies their work differently. How would you classify yours?
Oh, I'm a gag cartoonist, single panel gag. I did have a strip for a long time, which I tried to get syndicated and kept pitching it. Nobody wanted to do it, but it made actually pretty good money online with fans on the internet.
Is that Nicky-itis?
That is Nicky-itis. Yes, it is. And that was in the days when you could actually make money online by having ads and whatnot, which sort of went away some years ago. So then I started out single panel, terrible single panels. I have an example for you. I found one that I'm going to show, even though it embarrasses me. And then kind of kept pushing at that, and then started to get success with single panels. Then Nicky-itis came along, and I sort of did both. And then I said, it's so much work to do both. Maybe I'll concentrate on the magazine cartooning, the spot cartooning, and the merchandise. And there's a cartoon stock actually where I sell a lot of stuff where people go around.
So you can call up on. You want to do a screen share and show us this one you're referring to? Is that how you want to do it, or do you just physically hold it up?
Come on, holding it up. No, that's low tech. Totally low tech.
Some of our guests aren't as high tech as you, clearly. So.
Okay, boom. So let's clear the stage here. Hopefully that has cleared the stage a little bit there. I'll bring on a cursor that I invented because they didn't have this here. So yeah, let's start with the slideshow.
Nice.
So you can see what I'm showing. I can't see it anymore. I'm on OBS now.
Yes,
I see the Starship Enterprise.
Exactly. So I decided for the question, when did I start cartooning? I'm not quite sure how old I was here, but certainly it was in the K through area. Hopefully not too much for when it was just being done as a thing. So that just shows I was a kid and I was thinking about drawing. So I was very into pencil sketching, drawing, doodling, did lots and lots of that stuff.
I got a question, because this is a very, very well done rendering. Was this just you freehand doing this, or did you like?
Yeah.
Because back then we didn't have the internet, obviously. So you just did this from memory, or did you have a picture of the Enterprise that you worked
Oh,
on?
I don't remember, but I'm sure I had a picture that I was going off of,
Okay. All right.
or a model or something.
All right, model makes sense. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, everybody had the 3D models.
Yeah.
Back
Right.
then.
Yeah, totally. And did pencil sketch portraits of my classmates. And then in college, actually, I joined a singing group. It was very clever. Like 2 months before, it was a European tour of Europe, I guess. And so I just
The European tour of South America doesn't just go over there.
European tour.
Right.
That was fun. I got kicked out of the Vatican for trying to draw stuff. That was great. So
lots of Pope Mobile jokes, I'm sure.
not at that time. I didn't realize I could be funny then. I mean, I thought I was funny, I guess, but I never thought of cartooning. Cartooning took a long time. Gary Larson is the guy who did it for me, actually. I remember actually it happening. I was just reading a Gary Larson collection, and for some reason it just came to my brain. I wonder if I could do something funny. So I went to the bedroom and I lay down the bed and I drew up a cartoon, showed it to my wife. She thought it was hilarious. Showed it to my dance coach because I was doing competitive dancing then, and he thought it was hilarious. I thought, oh, this is great. So then I started doing lots of stuff, and they were terrible. They were super bad. But I got encouragement, so I kept trying. And in fact, I think the next thing is when I got serious about doing it, but it was crap. Yeah, there we go. Oh my God. I'm showing you this, but it's making me shiver.
All right, for our radio listeners, we need to describe the punchline.
Oh, okay. A horribly stiff drawing with a guy pinned to the wall with a harpoon and Revenge is Mine, MD on the wall, and a cop interviewing the wife saying, "Think carefully, Mrs. Ahab. Did your husband have any enemies you know of?" And that was my hilarity.
That I find that funny. I think that's very funny, and I'm a sucker for literary cartoons. I think that may be why I enjoy it so much.
Well, thank you. I wasn't thinking about magazines per se, what their format was. So this is actually kind of a very wide 16:9 sort of a aspect ratio. So not the best, but in any event, I just sort of drew them and threw them out there. Just to show that the literary stuck around in my mind. There's a modern version of Moby Dick. I'll let you guys read, and
Pete, you want to recap it?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have Moby Dick sitting at a table like in a restaurant with an African American companion. And it says, of course, your name, Crow, of your Zoom is right over the punchline. But I think it says something to the effect.
No, let me tell you. And all of your problems stem from being white, brother. You got to be kidding me.
So now we have societal humor. This is
so that's more modern. I do say I like that. So what happened was I started to use a little bit of thinking about what the cartoon or that is supposed to look like, and got them into the right format, and then got my first sale ever, which was this one, and that was the Harvard Business Review. So it's a standard business meeting and a guy talking with a little board in front saying, "Although our quarterly earnings dropped by 25%, I feel compelled to point out that our Facebook likes have doubled." And I don't know if you guys ever submitted and published in the Harvard Business Review, but they paid a lot. They were up there with the New Yorker.
I'm just laughing because I'm pretty sure I was sitting in that meeting at one of my past jobs. I distinctly remember that discussion.
Indeed, yeah.
I remember creating a list of the gag markets by how much they pay, top down, and I always remember Harvard Business Review always paid really well.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. And they're kind of funny how the editors just have tastes, I think. So I know a buddy of mine said that they got a new editor and they stopped him, nothing at all. And that's kind of when I came on, and they liked me. And so I sold a ton to them. And that's something then that I found out is you're selling. And then suddenly you're not selling. And then you sort of ask around, you find out, oh, the guy who liked my stuff, he's not there anymore, or he died, or he left, or whatever. So that's one of the weird realities of gag cartooning. Editors have a big say. One person has a big say. So anyway, after that came my other place that I'm still publishing all the time with, which is the Wall Street Journal. And that's my first sale there. It's two women speaking with some wine in the background of the cityscape, and it says, "The suburbs are calling to me." And you can see my signature is a little different there too. I used to think it looked cool to have a CS, and then I realized, no, it's cooler if people can read your signature, know who you are, so they can find you for the way.
Looks like a dollar sign actually with the S.
I know, yeah, it didn't work well, so I thought it looked nice, but in any event, because one thing is, I've gotten people read my signature and they contact me and they say, "Can I buy the original?" At which point I say, "Yes, of course, you may."
And you just sell originals over and over again, right? It's a big scam you got going on.
That's right.
Keep selling the originals.
This is my 25th original, but this one is
right.
Really original. So much originality. It's crazy.
I think that's how NFTs work. I'm not sure, but
yeah, something like that. So now I'm into cartooning, and I'm submitting and just developing a style in a sense. And you can see here, it's very pared down. I went away from that and I came back. And that's one of the things people tell me they can kind of recognize my style, but it changes a lot. And so I'm impressed they can, because sometimes I can't. Like I'll see a cartoon and I'll laugh if it's really good. And then I'll realize, oh, I wrote it. That's cool. I forgot.
What would you do with them eventually?
So just, as I mentioned that I had a strip. So that's Nicky-itis. And it was a little kid on the left there, and his brother and his mother. Should I read this, or should I just move on?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, describe
it. So Nicky is bringing up a chair. There's his brother Lex is bringing some popcorn, and the mother says, "Hey, I said no more watching stupid stuff until your chores are done." And Lex, the brother, says, "Come on, Mom, this is educational as well as entertaining. Dad's just about to call customer care to complain about our internet service." And then they're all together, looking very expectantly with big smiles. This is super, of course, where cartoon ideas come from based on real life, right? I like when I'm made to be annoyed to make them pay by me making fun of them. So customer service, I listen to them and I remember the sort of stupid things they say so I can make a cartoon about it. I was once in the Apple store and I had to wait for some genius, and they just said, "Go over there." And I said, "Fine, I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna start cartooning your thing, and I'm gonna come up with a cartoon that makes fun of you, and then I'm gonna sell it. It will be your punishment." And I did. It was great.
We literally just did this about 2 weeks ago. I dealt with customer service. I was on the phone with, I think it was Verizon Wireless. And I just had this horrendous customer service experience. And so as I'm online with them, I'm texting Pete, telling him it's ridiculous that's I'm going through. So the next batch of scripts I get to draw for our strip, he's got a whole series on. We changed it to Horizon Wireless just so that
we'll never get sued that way. No one will ever know.
But it just went right into the strip.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean that's. Do you find you go through life, just with that little bell going off in your head? That's a panel. That's a gag.
Oh yeah. Well,
you can't turn it off.
It's really random too. I mean, I'll just hear a word and I'll think that's an interesting word, and I'll think, can I make a cartoon about that? Sometimes we're getting into this process, which I have some direct things of, but sometimes I'll draw something. In fact, I'll show something about that. And then I'll say, how can I I drew it. What do I do to make it funny? And sometimes I'll come up with a funny gag and I'll say, okay, now I'll draw it. That's sort of more straightforward. But it's kind of fun just drawing something that's not funny and just saying, okay, it could be funny if I think of why it's funny or what this guy's saying that's funny. And that's an interesting sort of thing. And it'll go along over a couple of pages sometimes as you keep changing dialogue. And eventually you reach something that hopefully, it's funny. I found that working on dialogue usually makes it better. Working on the image itself often doesn't. often if you say, oh, I can do the image more and more, it gets kind of tight and sort of loses spontaneity. But tightening up the dialogue always seems to be a good thing. And of course, less wordy is always better.
I mean, and I think just you're talking about your style, like your recent work, from what I've seen, I definitely can see I can imagine seeing one of those characters and recognizing it as yours. They have this great sort of goofy look to them. They like have these long necks and no chins and, you know, the big noses. It seems distinct to me, and it's funny even before you necessarily read the caption. But the captions are super relatable. I think that's what I like about it. You say, you know, how they're based on real life, and they all, you know, when I'm looking at them, they really ring true to me. And I also appreciate really sort of avant-garde, you know, weird comics too. But I tend to gravitate towards ones that remind me of my life, and that's what you're doing falls into that category.
Yeah, I definitely try to have things which relate to life. The thing about the cartoon characters is an interesting one, because I really like making kind of goofy looking characters, but there's some outlets that will never buy. And so sometimes I'll actually do two versions, a normal looking and a goofy looking. I'll send one to one and one to another because I know they'll never buy the goofy, or vice versa.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, it's pain to do it.
What about creating? How many are you creating on a given day or week?
That can vary a lot. Yeah. I'd say the maximum that I've ever done in a day is 10. And that was where I knew the gags. I'd already come up with the gag. Because what I would do when I was commuting all the time is I'd have a little digital recorder, and I'd dictate to myself as I drove, and then I'd transcribe it. And that's a really nice way to just drive around. You free your mind, and you just, people seeing me think I'm a weirdo because I'm talking to myself.
Not anymore. Everybody does that now.
But this was back in California, so everybody was.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, actually, it makes sense to be talking now in the car, but not necessarily in different voices where you're answering yourself. Hear it. I'm trying to work up a good sort of a gag. And that would be a fast rendering black and white sort of a thing. Because if you're going to then do grayscale and color, that obviously slows it down a lot. And then it can be down, well, it can be down to 0, right? I don't do anything. I just do.
So you can't do less than 0. You don't. That's less than 0 would be ripping up cartoons, I think, right?
Deleting.
Yeah.
Erase. Yeah, deleting.
Yeah, not backing it up and having the hard drive go
Right.
down. That would be less than
Right.
0.
Do you find that there are particular, you know, I know your cartoons tend to be really general interest. It seems like no topic is sort of off limits, but do you find yourself going back to particular themes? You know, I see a lot of dogs and cats showing up. Those are some of my favorites. You know, there's a sort of a grumpy businessman who seems to be sort of a recurring character. Like, do you find yourself sort of falling back on some of those?
Yes, and I'm so glad you said that. That's a great segue. It's like you were seeing what I had here. So there was just a modern Nikki, just to show you a color version. That's a lot of words.
We will be able to post these along with our podcast too on our website at petpeevescomic.com for anybody who is listening and wants to see them in all their glory as they listen.
So pursuant to the question you just asked, we're getting into it slowly. I like coffee. So one of the things I do is coffee art. So that's the cup I made for my wife before she drank it. So I tend to take a picture of it.
How do you do that? And for the people not watching by video, it looks like it's an aerial view of, looks like sort of a cappuccino cup from above with a
luck dragon.
A froth. I was going to say a froth design, and this particular design is a dragon.
Yeah, it is.
So how do you do that?
Well, yeah, I can show you on here. I pour the milk in the coffee, and then that comes out. I'm lying.
There's got to be a couple of steps in between.
Well, you have to buy dragon milk. It's very specific.
I get into things. That's me. I get into things, and so I decided one day that I wanted to get into espresso, and I saw people were making flowers, and I said, okay, I want to really do this. And so I bought an espresso machine, and then I bought a couple of gallons of milk and a couple of pounds of coffee, and I stood all day making designs and throwing the coffee away because your brain would explode if you drank it all. And taught myself how to essentially texture the milk, which is a way of training micro bubbles. You take the steamer tip, you put it just on the surface of the liquid, which is generally a 2% milk, and it puts hot steam and it pulls air, and there's teeny little bubbles, which are called microfoam, which then expand the milk. It gets physically bigger in volume because it's getting full of air, but the bubbles are so small, it actually acts still like a liquid. So it becomes more like cream. If you do it right, and you don't do it too long, then you don't denature the proteins of the milk, and it's delicious. And the way you can tell is if you can pour it into the coffee and make a design, then it will be delicious. If it's all foamy and sits on top, it means you've overdone it. You've denatured the proteins. It'll taste cooked. It'll be bad. I've never served that to one of my guests. Then you can take a temperature probe, like that's a pen, temperature probe.
But if it was a temperature probe.
If it was a temperature probe, and then you can kind of do stuff around with the crema, the brown stuff, or the cream that's in your steamer mug still a little bit, and make designs. So that's how I did that. And that's how I made that.
Hey.
Which, if you're into Star Trek, is the NCC 1701A from the motion.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch it was the A, but I see it now. I can see on the
nasals.
Yeah, the nasals. Yeah.
You got
I did invest in Paramount Plus to watch Star Trek shows.
So I like making art always. So I like making art in coffee. But what does that mean? Well, why don't you use coffee to make your cartoons then? So that's one of my espresso cartoons. So I pulled some espresso shots, and then I just painted with them. So that's we were talking about old school and new school. That's watercolor paper and a steel nib with India ink. And then instead of using watercolor, because I'm a watercolorist too, I used coffee. And I like pigs. Pigs are one of my things. You were saying there's things that I like to do and you see a lot. I like pigs. So that's, another way of making a cartoon, which then.
No, I'm saying I like this a lot. I like the gradations of the one color, the brown gradations. I think it's a really nice one.
Yeah. It's grayscale, but not in gray. And it's a pig talking to other pigs saying, I'm a lacto, ovo, everything else that tastes good, vegetarian, for people who are listening. So that leads me to other pigs. So when you're saying, do I come back to things? I like pigs. So I do lots of pig cartoons. So here's a process. I just wanted to draw a really depressed pig. So I did. But then I said, okay, but it's got to be funny. How do we make him funny? He's depressed. I said, well, pigs are in a barnyard, so let's make a farm. Let's have a chicken there essentially with him. And the pig is saying, and now the sky is falling. Sure, why not? Just add it to the list. And
I have to ask, when was this? Because it would be so appropriate anytime within, I'd say, the last 5 years.
Exactly. It wasn't in the last 5 years. Actually, that one appeared in Alta magazine, I think 2 issues ago. I'm not sure, maybe more than that. Okay. But that's what's, is always cool is that didn't start out to be a cartoon necessarily to go anywhere in particular. It just started out with, I just wanted to draw a pig. The other thing that I like drawing a lot is death. I love drawing death. So the reason I put this up there is it's a very simplistic black and white. So this would be something that I might send to the Wall Street Journal because it would show up really well because the Wall Street Journal reproduces really small. And the gag is, don't tell me, let me guess, the computer died again. The guy is answering the door. And you see the guy is just an outline. So this is what I call my kind of grotesque style, where you can tell it's a person, you can see everything's going on, but there's not a lot of detail. And so it reads small. But a lot of times I just will start off saying, I want to draw death doing something. So here's a later one, which people love. I sell a lot of these on t-shirts. Death running after someone in a wheelchair, zooming away, or a motorized wheelchair saying, hey, wait up. I call that Mrs. Fernby. Death cannot get her. This also sells a lot. I laughed myself. It's death on a checkerboard, and the guy's thinking and pondering, and death saying, come on, move, you haven't got all day.
I like that one a lot.
And the thing about death, this is weird again. I just get things like, there's some old timey, like 150 years ago, of the Grim Reaper with robes, and it's flowing, and the great masters did robes. And so I'm just into doing robes. So I just like doing a fancy robe. So that's one of the reasons I'll start. So this was, Nick Galifianakis does really neat drawings. And I think I saw one of his, and he must have had a bird-like thing. And so it inspired me. I said, I want to do death kind of with the wings on the back, which sometimes, you don't have the sickle, but it's him, and he's a skeleton. And there's more like the fallen angel of death. So now I'm getting serious. Oh, I hate that. Don't do that. But anyway, he's holding a COVID ball saying, my ball, my rules. And this is one where I really just said, I want to draw folds and folds and folds. So I didn't really care about why. I just wanted a view where you'd see him. And he's at a bar, and a woman's looking at him. She obviously asked a question. He's saying, am I looking for something long-term? I suppose so, in a manner of speaking. So
folds are hard, by the way. Folds, bicycles, horses, these are the challenges of cartooning.
I love doing the folds though, but a nice detailed fold. And by the way, thank you guys. Thank you. Because the next cartoon is one that I lost. You're saying, how do I keep track? But sometimes if I've done it on Procreate and I don't save the Procreate file in a folder, and I don't save the pictures to submit because I'm not done yet. So it's still in the Procreate, and then I'll forget I did it. But I wanted to find a particular process thing to show you. In 2018, the Rubens were in Philadelphia. And I remembered some stuff that I did back then, and I wanted to get it. So I had to go back to 2018. And in so doing, I found that cartoon. It's a wordless man-spreading cartoon on a subway. But the man is, of course, death. And again, with the folds. But I'd wondered where that had gotten to. And so now I found it again because of you guys. Because of you, now I know it's here. And if I sell it, I will give you a thank you.
I was waiting. We'll take the thing.
Just give us exposure. We like to get paid in exposure. That's really what it comes down to.
Cartoonists love getting paid with exposure, we hear.
I really wish, hold on. When I wish I make it happen. New Hampshire. Okay, we'll first start with 'Tis But a Flurry. That's how New Hampshire has affected me. If you're a Monty Python fan.
Yep.
But your exposure comment, wait, why isn't it coming up? What's going on? Oh, I know. I'm not on it. There we go. Click.
Yeah.
See, you have one for every occasion.
Oh yeah, I try. If someone says I need a cartoon for, I'll be, I got it, dude. I totally got it. Now, oh wait, what's that? Get off of there. That was my yellow thing. Why did I have that yellow thing? Okay, let's bring this up again. No, let's bring that. There we go. Yeah. So that's just again the procedure. So I'd watch Star Trek, Too Bold to Go Where No Man Has Gone Before. And so sometimes I'll say, what does that sort of sound like? Boldly go where no none has gone before. Kind of sounds like that. And so there's a cartoon that came out of that, two nuns walking into a bar.
So this could be one that you did at the Vatican to, piss off, the Pope.
They got mad at me just because I was wearing shorts. Now this is one that I have this is the one from the Rubens. So it said there's a guy dancing, super happy, looks super carefree, looks kind of like Gene Kelly.
I thought it was Gene Kelly.
It
Yeah,
looks exactly like
exactly like Gene
That's
Kelly. The athletic dancer.
It's on purpose. So two guys in the background saying, looks like the audit went well. The reason that exists is because I went to the Rubens in Philadelphia, and then I visited some friends in New Jersey. And at their house, they had a bunch of Al Hirschfields. And those are, of course, super, and they're originals. He had a few originals. And it's like, wow, these are so neat. These are so cool. I'd like to kind of do it. I get on a kick of that. So in the airport, I said, can I do a Gene Kelly sort of a thing, but a Hirschfield style? So I did, and I found a mock-up from my iPad, not of the Hirschfeldian version, but just kind of blocking out what it would look like if you were, Gene Kelly dancing. So I did that, and since I'm an economical guy, I just don't like, wasting time and effort. And so I said, what can I do with this? And I said, well, I could complete it, which I did. And then I said, I could make it a happy guy. What should a happy guy be doing? And that's what led to that. And then I said, in terms of the gag, well, why don't I say the audit, and then I'll submit it to a accounting magazine, which I did, and they bought it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's especially effective because you have your two goofy characters in the back, looking all schlumpy, and then this the dancer in front of a completely different style, particularly the face, and the sort of comparison among the two is just accentuates the humor, I think. Yeah, and you correctly, I didn't think about it before, but you're right when you just said it. You're correctly assessing that happens a lot. A lot of times I'll have the surrounding guys be goofier than the detailed person. I never thought about that before, but it's true. That's what we do here at Strip Search, the comic strip podcast. You do it well, extremely well. I've been talking a lot though, so. Well, we did want to ask, you had mentioned briefly that you were also a watercolorist. I didn't know cartoonists were allowed to do fine art, but how does your painting sort of fit in with your cartooning work? Do you do one to, sort of relax after doing the other? Are they of a piece? How does that work into, sort of your artistic endeavors? Well, I can maybe answer that. What I'm wondering is, why am I seeing this? No, wait, I don't know why. Hold on a second. Let me turn off this yellow thingy, okay? There, turn that off. And there we go. Okay, I knew I had it. Yeah. So I watercolor, and this is the reason I brought this up is this is a New Hampshire-y thing. This is going to the coast here. And how does it work into the cartoony? One way it works into the cartoony is that I've been recently playing with, now I can't even see it, doing watercolors with cartoons. And so this was just not a lot of thought. I'll just do a pig and not really doing a whole lot funny. But then can I do texturing and watercoloring and whatnot and have it work and have it not run and stuff like that? Because some people do that really, really well. Again, Nick Galifianakis, this guy is awesome at that. So in that way, the watercolor thing feeds in. But as far as the fine art, I'm not sure if it does. I mean, I have some cartoon sensibilities like this one, a surreal bridge. So maybe that's not something you'd think about if your mind wasn't weird. And I like Scotch. So see, look at that. Oh, that's very well done. There we go.
Nice.
There we go. Yeah. But it's more just a relaxation and another way to do art. I guess most of it isn't really funny. It's just artsy fartsy. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Well, this has absolutely flown by. I can't believe we're almost at an end here. Dave, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up to Crow?
Just very briefly, because we touched on it, you showed us the screenshot of the iPad, and you and I have talked about this. But are you at this point using just the iPad and Procreate? Is that sort of where you are at this point with the cartoon work,
Well,
full electronic, or?
See, I brought, just to prove I still have the tools. Do it the old-fashioned way. Many tools. But having said that, I'm almost 100% on this. In fact, just before this started, this is literal. This is a worthwhile anecdote, I guess. There's like 10 minutes to go. No, 15 minutes to go. I got the good news that Alta bought another cartoon for me. And they say, can you send an invoice, and can you send a high resolution version of the cartoon and send a contract? So I grabbed this and I went to the original, which was on this, and I made a high resolution version. And then I opened my PDF thing and I made a PDF of the invoice, and I signed the contract digitally and I sent it all out. And that was with 5 minutes to go until we started here.
Very nice.
What was that? Yeah. So I haven't found anything I cannot do with the iPad. I keep thinking, oh, maybe it'd be more efficient to go get my Cintiq running again, but they don't.
I'm with you. I'm full iPad for my art. I have noticed it's gotten a little wonky. Has yours gotten wonky? Does it need replacing, you think, at any point, or how long do you think the machine lasts?
So far, it's fine. It hasn't really fallen apart. I mean, in general, all Apple products have what I call a CPU decelerator in them. They don't tell you this, but it just makes them go slower and slower until you buy something new. So maybe that's what you're running into.
It's like a flux capacitor, but inverse.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and this background is just because if you want to know what does my work area look like, that's what it looks like if I was upstairs in the studio. That's the painting part, but the non-painting is you're just sitting in a chair and on your iPad. So it's pretty much both things. Yeah.
Well, this Crow, this has been terrific. I know Dave especially appreciates getting into the nitty gritty on a lot of the sort of inspiration and how you everything from how you make your work to how you sell your work. And I know a lot of our listeners do too. So thank you so much for taking the time. Where can people find, if they want to see more of your work, what's the best place for them to find it?
I knew you were going to ask that. And I said, I should do that ahead of time. Didn't. Well, CrowdenSatz.com. I mean, that's my website. So that's a place. CrowdenSatz.com. I'm on Facebook. So I'm always interacting and posting on Facebook. I'm selling stuff on Redbubble and Zazzle, and my stuff's on Cartoon Stock. There's probably other things that I'm not thinking of.
Good old Google will probably turn up a fair amount.
Yeah, I show up if you check on that for sure.
Well, we will also, as our regular listeners know, we post all of our podcasts on our podcast page at petpeevescomic.com. We will include samples of Crow's work and links to a bunch of those sites that he just mentioned, so that you don't have to do too much searching and find them all directly. So, Crow, thank you again so much for taking the time out today. I look forward to seeing your work down the road. And Dave, any parting thoughts?
This was fantastic. And I got to say, it never occurred to me to have our guests do what you did electronically, to call up their work, live as we did this. I think that was just a brilliant play on your part to prepare that ahead of time. It made this podcast wonderful. And, hopefully the people who are watching it by video.
Right. We will strongly encourage people to watch the video version, but those who don't, will post the cartoons as well.
Maybe I could do a YouTube course on how to do better podcasts for cartooning.
There you go.
Let's jump right on that. All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in to yet another episode of Strip Search, the Comic Strip Podcast. We'll be back in August with another special guest. In the meantime, enjoy your summer and enjoy your cartoons. Talk to you later, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.